I'm just going to jump in and get right to it. So, WordPress is something that I've been doing deep dives into lately for professional reasons, and also for the longest time, it's something I've needed a refresher on. I've got it my own personal WordPress blog where I blog about things. However, I don't really do much in the way of development. I just pretty much use the blog as an end user to create pages and posts. So some of the motivations is at work. There's an effort at work to use WordPress amongst other things. So in the past several weeks, I've been doing deep dives on WordPress in order to get better at it. So I just kind of wanted to share my experiences, and for anybody not knowing WordPress right now and would like to and or needs to as far as a developing standpoint, I'd like to point them in a few directions. So here's a great course. It doesn't mean you have to take it. And as far as the $199 is concerned, if you check back on Udemy several times over the course of a week or so, sometimes this goes down, and significantly down to the point where it may be like $10 or $10.99. So what I like to do for courses is when I see them at this price, I tend to wait a little bit longer until they're back on sale again. But anyhow, having said that, this is an excellent course if you want to um, learn a bit about how to develop within WordPress. It's a very ambitious course. As you can see, it's 27 hours of a video, and each video hour for me, I don't know about you, but each video hour for me takes me about a good 1 to 2, actually 2 to 3 hours to go through, because I do a lot of pausing. I check the code, I type the code in, I debug it, various things like that. So let me just kind of get into a very high level jump start of WordPress, and no, this is not a tutorial. So hopefully, if you know absolutely nothing about WordPress development, hopefully after this you'll have at least a high level overview of what it is, so that you can pretty much take another course and learn it or practice it on your own. So what you're going to need for WordPress basically is, you're going to need a local environment with which to test, develop and test on your own computer. Then ultimately, the end result is after you do your development, you're going to want to deploy it to a server that the whole world can see. So first thing starting is there's different environments that you can use. One is like MAMP and XMAMP and uh, XAMP, and there's other various tools. The one that I'm using is local by a company called Flywheel, and I'll just jump right into it, but it's basically a WordPress development tool. It's probably better just to show you this. Also, what is WordPress for the most part? WordPress is an environment that you can create your own blogs and web apps into, and it's a content management system. But getting back to local by Flywheel, after you develop it, after you download and install it, you end up, with an interface that looks like this. And this is really pretty cool because what you've got here, I've got several WordPress sites here, but this spins up a server on your local machine. It's kind of like NPM, Node, or it's kind of like Cassini for Visual Studio, or even the Serve, but it's way more sophisticated, and it's perfect for WordPress. As you can see, I got a site up here, but you have options where you can start and stop the site. But what's really cool though is you can export, the site to a backup if you want to go ahead and save all of your work currently. You can export it to a file, and potentially you can also import it into another site that has local, if you will, too. But and there's also plugins to do things like that. But it's also, guys, you can see right here on this site that I'm about to show you, which is the application itself. It shows you information. It tells you which database you're using, which version of WordPress you're using. And without further ado, you've got an admin button up here and a view site. So this part's really nice. If I click on the view site, it brings up the application itself running locally. So this is running locally in my own box, and here is the actual site. As you can see, it's a fictional university that has classes, professors, events, and locations. And those are all known as different post types. So, we have an about us right here. There's a concept of using a plugin, which I can show you too, from a high level overview. And then you have programs. So these are all the different classes that this fictional university teaches. You have events, which are, kind of like a meetup events, basically with, parties right here. So you've got events right there, then you've got the location. So this fictional university has 2 locations, and we're using Google Maps inside of here. So if you click on one of these, you can see you've got a pin and you've got the description, the header for each of the pin. So if you click on Northwestern University, it takes you right there. And then it shows you in this location, it shows you all of the programs there. And that's done through a relationship. And I'm going to show you what that is too. And then, of course, we've got our blog. So we print out all of our blog posts, and then you click on that, and you can see each one of these. Now, one thing you're going to notice is every one of these that I click on, every one of these links that I click on, for the most part, where it plays content, and you're going to see something that says Theron's plugin says hello. And so I'm going to show you, what that's all about and why it prints out like that and what you can do, but that's using plugins. So the other thing that Local by Flywheel does is that is basically the site itself. If you want to administer the site, which is what I'm doing here, you can click on the admin button. So this here is this particular site in admin mode. So you're going to need root permission for the most part, but as you can see in the drop down, you can open this up into a new tab. But let's take a quick look at these and what they are. So in WordPress, you have the concept of pages and posts. So to further clear that, let's go back here to make it a little bit more clear. WordPress also has a database like any other content management system. We use Umbraco at the office as well, and in the past I've used SharePoint. So like other types of content management system, they sit on top of a database to store their posts, and WordPress is no different. WordPress uses MySQL. So as you can see, I went into database and local. On other sites, you'd use PHP MyAdmin or other various things like that. What you're looking at here is the database that sits or contains all of the data and posts and pages and post types like programs, events, locations, users, everything that you see inside of here for the most part that you can update. So we got our posts right there. It's sitting in the database. So that's something key to keep in mind. So we've got some important things. We've got like a users table right up here, so you can actually see the users. So we've got a root user, and we've also got a test user inside of there. Also, we have a WP post table. This one's probably, to me, the most important table in WordPress. But what you're looking at right here is every single post in the system, be it whether it is a, let me get back here, whether it's a campus, a page, a professor, these are custom post types, whether it's a like or have you, and I'll show you a little bit by what that means too. Those particular posts are going to be in this table. So let me go right here again. If I show you the data, so I'm selecting from the post table, but you can see the post content, you can see the post title. Each post has content and title, plus you can have your own custom fields, which I can, go over too, but you would do that inside of PHP when you register your new post type. And another very, very important column right here is post type. So as you can see, I'm doing a sort by post type there. We have basically custom fields, which I haven't gotten into yet. But as you can see, everything's a post, whether it's a custom field or a page or what have you. But here's our custom fields plugin, and these are the different custom fields that I've added. Also, you can see, we've got our campus posts, we've got our events. So if you look here, you notice we have two campuses right there. So it's no coincidence that we have two campus post types records right here. These are the actual records right here that get displayed. Going down here further, we've got our events, we've got our likes. I haven't shown you what a like is yet. And then we have our custom notes. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind about WordPress. You can export these. There's plugins that allow you to export. So that was, just kind of an overview on that. So let's take a look at out of the box. When you install WordPress, you're going to be able to get pages and regular posts and media right here. Campuses, events, programs, professors, notes, and likes, that's something new, custom for this particular site. But taking a look at your pages, as you can see, this should kind of make a little bit more sense right here. You've got your About Us page, you've got your My Notes, you got your events pages, your private policy. Those are all things right here for the most part that when you click on these, so these are the different pages that you can put together. So if you take a look at privacy policy page, for example, as you can see right here, you've got an editor. I'm using the Gutenberg editor. So you click on privacy. There you go. Here's the privacy policy content, and it contains this information here, things that you can do with each of the individual pages. So you can actually go into your About Us page, and take a look at that, and you've got your background image right there that you can select. So clicking on this here, you can see the background image is the building, and that's what we have inside of here. There's a bunch of things that you can do. So those are your pages. Your posts itself, these are your blog posts. So that's what you've got up here in this link. So you can see we've got like biology is cool. My posts are lame. This is just test data. So that's what these are up here. And they correspond to what you see here under posts. And again, inside of here, that's what you're going to see basically with the regular post type for posts when you display that. So if we were to, I think you could take, the whole result if you wanted to see the whole 132 or 133 rows right there. As you can see, you'll be able to see all the different types of posts and things like that that you can do for your blogs. So what else we've got here? That's pretty much out of the box. Also plugins. Plugins are things that allow you out of the box. You're just going to have a few plugins. Over time, as you can see here, I've got different types of plugins. A very useful one is Advanced Custom Fields, and I'm going to show you that one. I'm using an older one for the course itself. We have migration plugins that allow you to export this site and its data into another remote WordPress installation, for example. So after you're done developing locally and testing locally, you may want to export this out to the cloud, which I've done, and I can show you in a later video. We have custom plugins. I've written a custom plugin right here. This one right here, as well as the counts the number of programs. What you're looking at there is it's a custom plugin that says, so this one right here, this corresponds to this particular plugin that I wrote, which is the, let's see where we've got it. Staring right at it, it's this one right here. If I deactivate it, then this message will go away. This program count plugin, is why you see this right up here. And so I just kind of wanted to give you a quick demonstration on that. So what else to do? What else to show you right here? There's more, but I think I'm going to dig into the code. So what you're looking at right up here is this is the actual directory structure. And what you do, or at least for this course, is we developed a custom theme in WordPress. So WordPress allows you to choose themes, or you can write your own themes. So if you go under Appearances, Themes, right now we only have one, and this is the one that we've actually coded. And we've used custom CSS. The instructor in the course provided most all of the layout and the different pages, and we gradually build on each of those pages as well as create brand new pages for the course. But out of the box, WordPress has all of these different themes when you're developing a site or just creating a site, even if you're not going to develop. So you don't have to write a code in WordPress. You can, if you like, without coding, you can use many of the themes out there to create very good blogs and websites. But development itself allows you to really customize things and have total flexibility and power over what you're developing. Plus, you can integrate your WordPress site into company firewall applications, other third-party authentication engines like Okta, for example, or identity server, things of that nature. But these are various themes right here that you can, install and then activate. But for this course, we didn't do that. We're just using a custom one right here that we've created. So in order to do that, let me just kind of show you. If you go to Fictional University and click on show folder, you can see this is local by Flywheel. It brings you right to your Fictional University. And as you can see right here, this is our directory structure that I'm editing behind the scenes. So WordPress has some important directories. It's got a WP admin, content and includes, and then it's got kind of like your PHP files that'll sit in your root. But one of the things that you needed to see right here is this themes right here. So this themes is what we develop, and because it's sitting under WP content themes, that's why it shows up right here. And I've actually activated this theme, which gives you the current theme. So as a result, most of the development for this course is going to be sitting in this directory here. So let me just close to the right. So as you can see, we're under Fictional University Themes, which is right here. So this is where we do the myriad of our development. Okay, so something else. I have gulp running too. So in order to do hot reloading and testing of the site with gulp, and whenever you make a change to JavaScripts or JavaScript files, it's going to go ahead and rerun the scripts. It's going to also do hot loading. So actually, if you take a look at that at localhost 3000, we actually have our site. So you've got Theron's test WordPress site. So in WordPress, that's actually going to be right here in front page. So if I just change this and I just say, make a quick change, so I'm saving it. Gulp is going to go ahead and recompile it. As you can see, it shows up in hot reload. So that's why I'm using gulp right there. It hot reloads it without you even having to make changes to it. So if you make changes to your CSS or whatever, you can see it right on the fly. But getting back to WordPress development, it's in PHP programming language, which is a fairly easy language to get up to speed in. As you can see, you've got your keywords, tags, PHP. It's just like another scripting language that can be kind of, think of the old days of ASP pages in .NET or Java server pages, if you're familiar with Java. But WordPress, if you look here, how can I describe this? When you're using posts like pages and blogs, out of the box, WordPress has naming conventions. So a lot of these pages are brand new PHP files that I've created. But out of the box, like if you're displaying pages, for example, you're going to just the default pages or even the blog, you're going to get the default rendering, which is out of the box like index.php. What's really nice, and like if you look at index.php where it's printing out the individual blogs right there, you can mix and match HTML as well as coding by breaking into PHP right here with this tag. And WordPress offers many different convenience methods which allow you to iterate through all your posts, and you can do your given posts right there too. So and what I mean by the many different methods is you can go to like this function reference inside of WordPress, and you can see all the different various methods right here. As you can see, so you've got like have post, the post, you've got author post link. The excerpt, that happens to be my own personal one, so you can mix and match your own, as well as the ones that WordPress offers you, like the permalink. So if you take a look inside of here, you're going to see all these various functions inside of here. So you can see the title, somewhere in here would be the permalink, as you can see. So if you click on that, it just basically tells you what that does. So WordPress has a very good set of documentation, but this is not a tutorial. I'm just giving you a high-level overview. So as I show you briefly, quickly, some of these functions inside of here, you're going to see mix and match of custom ones as well as the regular ones. So let's get back to post types. And in order to make this site work, when we created our own programs and our own events and our own locations, we ended up having to create special post types that still sit inside of this WP post table, but we needed special ones that the regular blog post and the regular page did not support, such as our campuses, our events. So here's our campuses, here's our events, like our upcoming meetup events, professors who are teachers. So in order to see them, when you click on a given campus, you could see, the different programs, and you could see the different professors. So as you can see here, here's a permalink. If I click on that, you can see here's a professor. It shows you the professor. You can actually like them, and it tells you which subjects that they teach. So that's what's going on here with the professors. And then you've got the notes and the likes. So let's take a look at professors, for example. We have a total of 4 inside of here. Let's take a look at Dr. Parks a lot since I'm inside of there. Click on this again. So if I bring up Barks a lot, it gives you additional fields that the regular post out of the box does not give you. One such one here is related programs, plus you've got your background image. And so you may be wondering what's that all about. But the related programs is how this gets shown right there, the biology and the math. As you can see right here, we've got a related programs. It's yet another custom plugin that you can download. I just added sports medicine, for example. Let's see if I do an update. Let's see if this works. And if I refresh the page, you can see sports medicine shows up inside of there. So there's different types. So in order to create these types, you have to register them in PHP. But what I wanted to show you real quick was our plugins. So we have this thing called custom fields. And I have several custom fields. One is related programs. So let me just kind of show you that. But custom fields is basically created by the special plugin, and that's the ACF plugin. But inside of the related programs one, you can see that I'm saying, hey, show show this field for professors and events. So if you're on the event page or the professor page, then show this related programs field. So let me just show you right here. So if I just say all professors, I'm going to open that up in a new tab, get back to Barkslot. So this particular plugin, so like only show it if you're editing a professor or in a given event. In this case, we happen to be editing a professor, so it's going to show up. And here's the actual field itself. And inside of here, you can see I'm saying this shows up, what we're looking for is we're pulling in all of the programs inside of this plugin. That's what you're seeing right here. These are all of the programs which are up here. So if I were to do a open new, you can see these are all of our programs. Those are going to get pulled into this list because of this. And there's, it's a relationship field type. So this plugin has some really interesting ones. So not only does it have relationship, but it also has WYSIWYG editors. It also has a Google map, which I can show you too. So I just kind of wanted you to see that. So let's getting back to, that's what our professors are right there. If we take a look at our campuses and we edit one of the campuses, lo and behold, you're going to see this map right here. Here is another custom field type, which is a part of that ACF plugin. So again, if I go into plugins tab, you can see if you wanted to add new plugin, you can go out to the WordPress community. It's kind of like NuGet packages or NPM or Node. You can install all kinds of packages, but you can actually search for plugins, and there's a whole ton of plugins that you can use. As you can see, I've got several plugins right now that I'm using to export and import the site, but we also have custom programs and custom fields, I should say. So that's right now, that is a very, very powerful. Let's see what we've got here. I wanted to go to the installed plugins. That's this advanced custom fields plugin, which you're probably going to want to download and install too. But that also provides you a Google Maps type, which you're going to have to actually create your own API for. So as you can see, if you look at campuses, we got a total of 2. You can actually add new campuses. So here's where we type in the information and you've got the map. Sometimes we have a refresh issue here. You got to kind of like refresh the page in order to see the map being pulled in. What else we've got? Like I said, we've got our events. So these are our events that show up. Okay. Then we also have likes. So the concept of a like is, as a professor, you can like a professor. So this is going to look a little bit odd, but all you really see is one record inside there, which actually has a professor ID. So if we had 10 users logged in and they all liked the same professor, you would have 10 entries here with a liked professor ID of 87, which would be tied back to like the user itself. So as you can see, because we have 1, we only have a total of 1 like. And if I toggle that, we've got 0, now we're back to 1. So behind the scenes, that ends up inserting records. All right, so let's actually get into some of the coding right now. So I've kind of rambled on, just kind of showing you a high-level overview of what that is. Getting into the coding, you may be asking how out of the box we only have posts and pages show up. How do you get these? And the answer is when you're developing your application and such, you'll have a themes folder where you do all of your coding. But outside of your themes folder, you're going to have a plugins folder. So anytime you install a plugin, it gets added to this folder. Plus, you have your own custom plugins that you can create yourself, which is what I've done right in here. Also, you have an MU folder. It's a must-use plugins, which basically says you cannot deactivate these, as well as when you go from theme to theme, it's still going to keep these plugins consistent, so they still show up. We have a file that we just created. It's just called University Post Types. Here's another WordPress function. It's called register post type. As you can look here, you've got campus, you've got events, you got register post type of program, professor. So quickly taking a look at this, like for professor, you can see you've got labels, you've got name professors, you've got these ads right up here. Same for programs, you've got these ads. This is what causes it to show up on this list right here. So by doing nothing more than just adding a PHP file into the MU plugins folder and having the site refreshed, it is going to, PHP itself is going to see this hook, this add action hook. It gets invoked right away. And it's an init hook, so there's predefined hooks, and you can look into the documentation. There's all kinds, but one is init, and that just basically says when the site's initialized, call this method, and this is where it just registers all these different post types that we can support. So as you can see, another thing that I didn't show is we have the concept of archives. So if I click on, if you see like, let's see here, if you see like events, let's just go back up here, I'm sorry. If you go to this events page right here, you're going to see these 3 events here. This is known as an archive. Same if you go to the blog, you're going to see these are all the archives. So it's going to show you all of your blogs. You have control of how many you want to show on a single page. But there are some post types that we don't want to have an archive on. But for events, as you can see, we do have an archive. So what does that mean for the most part? Well, we've got this property, and it's called has archive of true. Some of these, we have a program that has an archive. Some of these do not, like the professor. But if you have an archive, by default, if you don't override it out of the blocks, you're going to see this archive PHP, which is going to iterate through all of your individual posts. And so again, these are calling WordPress functions that you can see the documentation for in the function reference. So like for example, you can see the post, get post, you've got the post right there, and it just basically tells you what it's doing, and it gives you good description. So that's kind of what you see right there. So if we wanted to do something custom for each of our special post types inside of their archive, by convention, since PHP has that naming convention, you would just create a file that says archive dash and then the type of your post. So if you take a look inside of where we register our different post type, we've got this program, which has an archive, and then we've got this event, which has an archive because we specified as true. So what you're going to want to do is you want to take a look at a file, or you actually write it yourself. If you want to specialize and make it different from the regular default, you can create your own right up here. So as you can see, we're doing things slightly different with an event as we iterate through all of the events, and then with programs, we're doing things slightly different with programs. So that's just kind of a key takeaway there is you've got your naming convention. Same with pages. If you create pages within WordPress, go back to your different pages, you can see we've got, let's see, we've got, these different pages right here. And then we have notes if you wanted to create them as a page type too. But you can override what your pages look like just by out of the box. Here's the default renderer. It's just page.php for all post types of pages. But if you wanted to do something different when you're creating a new type of page and you don't want it to use the default one, then you just say page dash and then whatever your entity is. Here's past events and my notes. And the same applies to your custom post types, which basically are going to show up inside of index.php. So your index.php is what iterates through all of your blogs right here. So each of these out of the box is index.php. But if we wanted to do something specific, like with programs, see if you look at programs, you can see how we're linking through all the different programs and providing, uh, you know, so this one right here is actually going to be the archive program. So it's what you've got right here. So it's just iterating and showing the links. But when you click on a single program, let me see here, when you click on a single program, English, for example, it says English is available at these campuses, and then it shows you a list of the campuses. That's where you break down to single dash. That's another naming convention. So WordPress is going to say, oh, I see a single dash, and then it's going to look at the type, your post type, and it's like if your post type is that of a program, then it goes into here and renders this. If it's a post type of a professor, it's going to go in here. So if you take a look at your program, here's another really cool thing. Because of that relationship custom field, we're basically, for this given program, when you click on it, it says English is available at these different campuses and such. So it allows you to actually query all of your individual campuses. So as you can see, we're actually running a WordPress function right here, which says, hey, I only want to see 2 posts per page. This is kind of like constructing a Mongo query, or like a link query if you're familiar with .NET, or a HQ, something like that if you're doing Hibernate. But anyhow, there's all kinds of documentation on that. But as you can see right here, for events and campuses, when we want to look at related campuses, we're spinning through these. Let me take a look at something else like related professor, or I should see, there we go. So events. So if we take a look at this events, let's just go to single event. As you can see right there, when we go to the single event, it's looping through all the related programs, because in our post type, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, which I apologize. If we go to events and we edit this given event, you can see we've got our related programs, which is math, but because we've got that plugin inside of there, that's why it's showing up inside of here. So if you click on math, then it takes you to this right here, which is going to show you your professors and your events. So let's go back to the single program. And here's where we construct a query to get all the related professors and such, and as well as all of the related events. And we just iterate through them. So after we run the query, we're just iterating through them, and that's kind of what you're seeing right inside of here. One of the other things I did want to show you, which I thought was kind of interesting, really nice with the WordPress API, this little section here that's got this badge and this image and this link right here, which ties you back to another event, that's happening with template parts. And so another really nice feature with WordPress, and again, you can see inside of here, you've got different methods right here. So you can see get template and then get template part. What that basically does is it pulls in a section of PHP. So what you're saying, you give it a path name, template part, and then content event. If you scroll up here inside of the themes, you can see template part. So we've got different sections up here. So we're just pulling in partials. Think of this kind of like as a directive in Angular, or like another component in React if you're pulling in a component real time. Just little bits and pieces of PHP. Plus you can nest them. So if you look at this content event, if you pull that in, that's actually pulling in yet another part, which is pulling in excerpt. So if you look here, you can see content, or the event excerpt. So, and why would you want to do that? Because some of your parts may actually pull in bits and pieces of other parts, and you don't want to have to like reinvent the wheel or have duplicated code. So that's why you would do something like this here. So if you wanted, let's just say some of your other template parts would pull in excerpts too, then you could actually pull those in as well. So I just wanted you to be aware that you can do that with the API and with PHP. So that's what's going on here. Speaking of API, something really, really cool, I think, is whenever you're developing a CMS or like in SharePoint or in Brock or whatever, um, you've got all this data sitting in the database and you've got your WordPress application pulling from it. You may want to have third-party tools also pull the data. You may want to have yet another totally unrelated web application out there pulling all the different programs or all the different locations. Or you may just want to have your current web app doing the same thing. For example, I just clicked on this little icon. It brings up JavaScript, a search. So inside of there, I could be searching for something like biology, and it shows us all of our searching information. How did we do that? Well, we did that by WordPress API. So let's see here. We did that with the WordPress API. So as you can see, we have the search JavaScript. I just went to that. That's what this is. When you click on this little icon right here, the search JavaScript, which is getting loaded in. And by the way, this is using jQuery, but you can use Angular or React inside of your site, so there's no restrictions there. This is something I wanted you to see though, which I think is really pretty cool. So in WordPress, you can tack on this here. I'm actually in Postman, and I am typing in biology search, as you can see right here. I've actually made an API call. Now you could protect your API through HTTPS, and you can add logins, and you can add restrictions to see only private posts. So there's all kinds of things you can do inside of here. Again, this is just a test application. Here's another one right out of the box. WordPress allows you API. You can call it with this URL. As you can see, I'm querying all the different pages in our system. If I wanted to see blog posts or whatever, or different posts, I can replace that with posts. As you can see, it's going into our database. So I just wanted you to see that. So you can write APIs that other third-party systems would go ahead and invoke. And so how do we do that? So let's see here. I think I've got, it's like there's a method called register REST API. I'm just trying to remember where I have that. So, and I think I've got that in, let's see here. It's in register REST API. I believe it's called, let me take a look at this. Okay, it's actually in, here we go. So we have, like in my library for this particular theme, it's actually, the name of the function is called register REST route. And again, it's nothing I wrote. It's actually in the WordPress documentation that you could take a look at. But as you can see right here, there's the one that's out of the box for your different posts. So you can actually look at, I think it's program type, if I'm not mistaken. There you go. So here you can see I've got my own custom programs that you can query on. So we have a program. I can't remember if we do a campus. Okay, I have not enabled it. I'm going to show you that in a second too. But we have programs, and then we also have the events. I think, am I displaying the event type? Let me, that's not being shown here too. So hold on, that's one thing I wanted to kind of show you is why that's not showing up. So we've got program and professor. So let me see if professor shows up. So we'll do professor. And as you can see, we have all of our professors. So you might be asking, why are professors showing up but not the other ones? Well, I'm kind of jumping, but let me just show you them because I'm just kind of winging this right now. So if you go back to your university post types when you registered your routes, so here's this is really interesting. So with events, programs, this is where you specify flexibility, what you can and can't do with your different post types. But one of the things that's key here is this show and rest. If you set it to true, then you'll be able to query the REST API to see them. If you don't set it to true or whatever, you won't. So right here we've got program. As you can see, we've got show and rest set to true. So having said that, I should be able to click program up here and you'll see that. Event, since show and rest is not set to true, if I go here and say event, you're going to see this 404. So you can control what gets displayed back from the API or what doesn't. And just to really prove that this is working, I could set this to false, this show and program. And by setting it to false, when I used to see it show up, now I see it's blocked out. But if I set it back to true again and rerun it, now we see our data. So anyhow, I just wanted you to see that. But here's where you set up your REST routes. And inside of that, so we've got a callback right here. So when we do a search, here's a REST route. When you type in that information, you can register a callback that says, this is what gets called when you do the search. So here we've got custom code, which is going to go to the WordPress database, and it's going to run a WP query. I'm not going to go into the details on that, but it's another WordPress function that allows you to run queries. As you can see, we're aggregating. This is kind of like a JavaScript promise, if you will, you know, where you can sit and block and wait, but not so much the same thing. But as you can see, we run this query. We're saying query all these different post types, sanitizing for security purposes, and we're iterating and filling up these different arrays. So this is all inside of PHP. So this is a PHP language right here. And so it fills up these different arrays and buckets. And I'm not going to go into details because you'll learn about that if you take the course or if you do your own research. But the key point here is when you do a search, it's hitting the JavaScript and it's invoking the search. So it's going to show you general information, all your blogs, your programs, and your campuses, and your professors. And you can basically click on these permalinks in each one of these, as you can see right here. So getting back to that, that's how you do your post types as well as your search. And we've got our JavaScripting up here that actually does your actual search, and then it's going to actually iterate through all of your results here, which is actually rendering the pages. So it's rendering all your professors, all your programs, all your campuses, and that's why you see, if I go back here, that's why you see all this right up here. So getting back to custom plugins, I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but then again, I'm not. But you might be wondering, again, I promised I would get back to this. Why when you go to different pages here, do you constantly, when you click on these different links, why do you constantly see this Theron's plugin says hello? Well, the reason for that is I was testing out, you know, plugins, and you can write plugins as well as install them. So you can actually write your own plugins out in the community. I kind of think of that as like NuGet packages or NPM that you can, modules that you can put out there. But as you can see, we've got Theron's program count plugin, and then we've got this My First Amazing plugin, which the course taught you. But as you can see, what is this all about? Well, I've got them activated. And the count plugin that you can see, this Theron's post plugin, when you go to the About Us, that's what this is. It's counting dynamically the number of programs that you have in your system. So if I added another program in the system and I went back to About Us, or if I deleted one, this would either show 5 or 4. And the way to do that is when you write your own plugin, first of all, under your WP content WordPress directory, you're going to see MU plugins for must use, and then you're going to see the regular plugins, which contains all the plugins you've installed. As you can see, it's also got this one here. So you can actually make changes to third-party plugins if you want. although sometimes they won't recommend it, but there may be times when you have to. But you can also write your own. So as you can see, I've got this My First Amazing plugin. What I'm doing right here is for different types of content. Whenever we're about to display, whenever we call the content, that's that API method in WordPress called the content. Whenever we call the content, we're basically adding our own hook to it. I kind of like maybe consider it like aspect-oriented programming, if you will, or even inheritance, where you're intercepting that and you're doing your own special thing to it. So this is just showing an example of where we're about to render out this particular content, but before we do it, we're inserting our own text, and that's what you see right up here. And so we're inserting our own text, and then also we're replacing all occurrences of lorem with star, star, star. So there's several cases. That's why you see the star, star, star here. So this is for Northwestern University. If I go here to campus and I do an edit, you look at the content right here, you can see, first of all, you don't see Theron's plugin says hello. You don't see that anywhere up here. And also you're going to see like lorem ipsum is a part of the text, but when it's displayed, you're going to see star, star, star. And that's because this plugin has intercepted and replaced lorem with star, 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 and it's also inserted this. So it's important to know that these plugins, these filters and all that, they're not updating into the database for this given one. It's just translating it. That's not to say you couldn't write other plugins and add different hooks like a pre-save or whatever, where you're actually modifying and doing things with the content prior to it being saved. So I just wanted you to see that. And then the program count one, another really important thing is the concept of a short code, which I wanted to show you. So another really cool thing in WordPress, if you go to the About Us page, this is where we're displaying this right here. Our school has 4 programs. So if you go to that, you're going to see this text right here. So this is the About page. You're going to see our school has bracket, program count, programs. And that's basically a call out. It's known as a short code whenever you see like a bracket and then a program count. It's a WordPress concept called short code. So that allows you to pull in different translations, plugin values, any place where you want to do call outs. And what we've got here in this particular plugin right here, you can create your own custom short code too if you want. In this given plugin for the program count, I am saying, hey, create a short code. It's called program count. And whenever you see that on a page, go ahead and call this method, or I keep calling it method because I'm object oriented, but go ahead and call this function program count function. And so this gets called and it just ends up calling the WordPress utility, WordPress count posts, and you can pass it the post type or other types. You can pass it arrays or whatever you want, but here I'm just saying program. And so that's actually going to go ahead and return us the value 4 because it's doing a count. So that's why you're going to see 4 up here. Is there anything else that I needed to show? Again, we have, we have our template parts. I've shown you, we have our likes, which there's more to it there. So you can actually like a given professor. Let me try to actually go and find a professor post if I can find one. Here we go. I can actually click on this like button and toggle and untoggle the like. Every time I add one, it's going to add an entry in this likes table, or this likes, in the WP post under likes. Every time I remove one, let me just go ahead and there. If I refresh this again, as you can see, we have no likes in there. If I go ahead and add it again and refresh it, he shows back up again. So that's what this like is right here. So it's liking Professor ID. The reason I say that is we have JavaScripting to handle the pressing of that like button, and we do a toggle here with the click method. So this is our basically our toggle. We can create and delete likes. And also we're using the WordPress API, so we're creating our own REST API to do the like. So if I take a look at, if I go back into my lib directory, we've got our like route, and again, register REST route. You give it your namespace and your name for the URL. So this allows you to add and delete likes. But what's really nice is you can protect your APIs by, you can do various things, like you can check which role you're in, like right up here with the current user, or you can say, hey, if we're just logged in, you can get the person who's logged in, or you can get the different ID. So I just wanted you to see that's how we're handling the like, is through an API. So one other concept is out of the box, WordPress allows you security of users right here. So I have a couple of users. I can log in, you can actually log out and sign up. A third-party person can come in and sign up, much the way ASP.NET membership works, where it creates a table for each user. Inside of there, you can have roles for each of these. So I think I have a roles plugin, but these are different roles for a user. So I have a subscriber role out of the box, which just basically says, for all general posts, a subscriber can only read. For events, they can't do anything to events. For notes, all they can do is edit, publish, and delete their own notes. For pages, all they can do is read their own private pages, but they can't read other people's pages. So that's, I didn't really go over the notion of notes, but if you click on My Notes, here's where you have your different notes. So you can create a note. So each user is allowed to create their own different note. So, you can actually delete these notes if you want, and then create them again. And so that's a different type of note. So add this note, test note, kind of jumping all over the place, but as you can see, we've just added this note. Plus we can edit the note. So I'm just editing this note, test note edited, and then we save it, and it saved it. So if you go back to your notes, you can see that we've edited this note. It's private. We have other notes here because they're for the other users, and they don't show up inside of here for this user. Trying to think if there's anything else that I need to go over. So we've got roles and users. Oh, and like I said, with the plugins, if you wanted to replace this authentication system or use federated logins, like if you wanted to use Okta or Identity Server or whatever, that's where you can write your own custom plugin. Okta actually has its own WordPress plugin that you can modify at the, and extend to do single sign-on, various things like that. But I hope this kind of gives you a brief overview. One of the things I want to do in another video is show you how to deploy this site locally. Oh, and if I haven't mentioned, you can export this site, and you can also import it. You can also look at the database, which is what I did by going to the adminer, so you can see all the different tables. And also, in another video, when I show you that this site is deployed basically to a remote site, I'm using automated deployment, so I can show you that. But you would make use of a plugin, which is the all-in-one WP migration, which allows you to export this site to a file, and then in your remote system, you can import it, or you can do automated, shall we say, deployments, which will tie into GitHub or Bitbucket, and it'll deploy your site to a remote WordPress installation. So I hope that helps. There's debugging too, so you can actually set up plugins inside of Visual Studio Code, extensions or whatever, where you can set breakpoints inside of PHP. Thinking if that's pretty much all I have to cover for this high-level jumpstart. I thank you for watching this, and hope you learned a little bit and to determine whether or not you want to go deeper into WordPress. So thanks again. Bye bye.